Namaste. The goddess in me greets the goddess in you. And yes, even men have a goddess inside them, because Shakti is an exclusively feminine energy. Kundalini is a feminine energy. So we might want to look at what divine masculine actually is. It's a very interesting thing. It may actually be a man who can embrace his feminine without selling out to the agenda to let go of his manhood. A man is still going to be a man, no matter how he expresses himself, no matter how he talks, walks, dances, or dresses. Still a man. There's nothing wrong with that. Being a man is a beautiful thing. In fact, we're all men too, because the word man is derived from the Proto-Indo-European word man, which means mind, manas, which means to think. So we are all mankind, and we all contain feminine energy. So we are going through a mass identity crisis that is being encouraged. We're being encouraged to be confused about our identity. We're being encouraged to have imaginary identities and cling to them. This is all stuff that goes completely retro to yoga. It's the complete diametric opposite to what yoga is teaching us. And then we have this problem where we are calling asana yoga. We are in a really, really funky pickle, guys. Like, we're in a real kind of confused situation these days where we think that asana is yoga. And so we call asana yoga when we should be articulating yogasana whenever we're doing these yoga poses. Because we have a whole bunch more going on with yoga than asana. So when we call asana yoga, we are forgetting that yoga is a eightfold path. In fact, you might not want to call yoga the practice, but the path work, eightfold path work. And in this path work, shadow work exists as well. So doing your shadow work has to do with self-observation, self-inquiry, self-study, along with what is called scriptural study, which could also be considered reading the writing on the wall, or looking at the statistics, looking at what is factual truth. Because what is gospel truth other than, or scriptural truth, other than that which cannot be changed because it is true? This is almost redundant to call something scriptural truth, or gospel truth, or whatever. Yeah, I understand Christianity, the Bible, Abrahamic religions, etc. have basically claimed this word as their own, and also the word salvation is considered to be exclusively something to do with the Abrahamic religions. Well, what if I told you that, for one thing, there is no separation between spirit and psyche? Psyche is a Greek word, which literally means your soul. So if you were to find salvation, then it would be a solely psychological thing. And that would mean that we would want to dig deeper into yoga to actually uncover some of the things that are stopping us from liberating ourselves from suffering and gaining power, which one may say they are one and the same thing also. The path towards enlightenment is, excuse me, I'm burping, one and the same as the path to salvation. So salvation is part of enlightenment is part of growing towards sainthood. And what is a saint but a sane person? And how many people are sane? Not very many. We live in an extraordinarily emotionally and mentally unhealthy world, if you haven't noticed. And, well, what is being offered to us to help us become mentally and emotionally healthier? There's not a lot of common offerings. In fact, all the talk that watching TV rots your brain, I guess it's basically come to fruition, but I don't know if it came to fruition in the way that it was being portrayed, because the things that are being shown to us in media are actually grooming us for dysfunctional behavior, for strife, discord, and essentially not getting along well with one another. So we're in a giant mess, really, and it's up to us to do the work, to back out, to get disentangled with all of the mess that has been laid before us and offered so graciously and generously to us by the military-industrial complex. And who has taught us yoga? Who has taught us liberal arts? These things are underneath the umbrella of military-industrial complex. There are not very many offerings of yoga that take us outside of the realm of that which is in that container of complex. Nothing that really helps us to exit that, which one may actually call the matrix. So what is this matrix but a mental construct that we are sharing amongst us as a collective? It has to do with a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety and a lot of subjugation, pressure, and a lot of assumptions on what reality actually is, and very few questions asked or answered, very few resources offered to help us to actually literally become emotionally healthier. And when you look at the first two parts of yoga, yamas and niyamas, you're going to see that the first part, the yamas part, is going to emphasize the importance of these first two things: nonviolence and honesty, not lying. And the next thing is not stealing. And the next thing is not screwing around. And then there is non-hoarding, so there's a lot of that going on in our society. And yeah, I think I gave those not exactly in the order that they're offered, but you get the idea. I don't want to get into that too much. I just wanted to remind you to take a look at Patanjali's sutras and see what other things are offered for us in yoga that can point to salvation, to enlightenment, to our liberation from suffering. And I find it disturbing and mildly amusing that we are not viewing yoga as the right livelihood practice or accomplishment or path working. It's not necessarily a practice unless you want to call dedicating your life to taking higher ground and evolving and growing into a wiser being, a more emotionally healthy and balanced being. You could call that practice if you'd like, but I don't know what you're practicing for at that point, because there's not much else to life. Yoga will take up your whole entire life, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just is some really good guidelines. In fact, I would like to suggest to you the great possibility of yoga being its own political system. It is In fact, if you look at it, it's a system. And it's not a belief system. It is a system of policies and observations, very much like any political system would have you do. Just like any political party would want to emphasize, especially since this is in the realm of very direct seeing, observation of virtues without any virtue signaling and no fake it till you make it. So the fake it till you make it stuff is really rather problematic. And I'm going to talk about that in my next video. So stay tuned.